Today is another webinar by Mira, and today we invited Dr. Jacqueline. So Dr. Jacqueline is a really well-known doctor, and we're gonna be talking about the birth control and how the hormones are related to that. So for those of you who have joined, maybe you're a Mira customer, maybe you're not Mira customer, but I'm Sylvia, so I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Mira. We have been hosting webinars like this for more than 2 months, 2 or 3 months, I think already. So our goal is really to give women more support on understanding their body, because we know when you're trying to understand your body or trying to conceive, there's a lot of confusions. Everyone's different. So we try to invite the best doctors in this country to our webinar series. And this usually will be pretty, interactive. So we have the topic, which is we will be talking about birth control today, but you are more than welcome to type your questions to us. So the way to do is like you can go to the Zoom window. There should be a Q&A box. So along the webinar, you can type your questions, just leave in there. And if other people say there's a question you also want the answer, and you can vote. Basically, you can upvote that question. So when we get to our Q&A session, we will answer that based on popularity. So without further ado, I'd like Dr. Jacqueline to introduce yourself. So Dr. Jacqueline, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Tolentino. I'm the lead doctor at Parsley Health Los Angeles. I practice virtually. I see patients in California. I also see patients in Florida. And I specialize in hormone optimization. I've been featured in several different outlets regarding hormones, including a feature in Vogue from October of last year. And I'm really excited about this topic because I myself am a breast cancer survivor, I'd like to say, as somebody who has definitely taken breast cancer for a long period of time and experienced some of those side effects that went along with it. So I'm happy to be here and share knowledge with you. I'm looking forward to the Q&A at the end, and also ready to hear what Sylvia has to say about Mira.
Sounds great. So thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. When before we start, you should be able to see my screen. So I like to introduce Mira a little bit. I know some of you might be Mira customers already, but basically Mira is the very small home testing device. So this device helps you to understand your actual hormone concentration. So actual means you can get the hormone number. So this is different than any OPK or Clearblue or anything you can buy from the consumer's market. So it will not tell you positive or negative, but it will tell you your hormone concentration. So why do you need a hormone concentration? Because everyone's very different. When you say positive, negative, that is usually based on the population average. That doesn't mean you are really ovulating or you may not be ovulating. But with Mira, you can get much more accuracy and insights into your cycle. And our app also plots your hormone, so you can see your hormone curve. Like, is that really trending up, you're trending down? Maybe you're in your fertile window, but how fertile you are? Are you already ovulating or you have already ovulated? So those are different questions. And usually your action will be different if you're trying to conceive or trying to avoid pregnancy. So this entire system as for home use system is really trying to bring you much more insights about your cycle so you can achieve your goal. So regardless your goal is to get pregnant or to avoid pregnancy or just to understand better about your body. For example, you may have PCOS, or you might trying to get off the birth control, and you want to say where the cycle stability is, and when are you ready to do something. So those are the purpose behind that. And with that, I like Dr. Jacqueline, you can introduce Parsley Health a little bit, your program. I know you have a wonderful program, and also we have a partnership as well. So do you want me to stop share so you can share your screen?
Sure, that's fine. You can go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay.
All right, let me share screen.
And I like to say that I like to send out a poll before Dr. Jacqueline, start the presentation. So maybe Dr. Jacqueline just give me a pause anywhere if you're like ready. And after you introduce Parsley's House, and I want to get, we want to get more understanding about, the goal of our audience today. So I like to send out a poll before you start the topic about birth control.
Sure, no problem. So just a brief introduction to Parsley Health. We are the most innovative functional medicine practice across the country. We're located in more than 45 states. We see patients virtually. We also see patients at 2 flagship locations in Los Angeles and also in New York. And Parsley Health doctors are board certified in family or internal medicine. And we also specialize in functional medicine, really getting down to the root cause of conditions. So our team is comprised of myself or another Parsley Health doctor, also a health coach to help keep you on your toes regarding your goals, and of course, patients. We use different types of advanced technology, including specialty testing and labs and diagnostics of all kinds. And really, it is the most innovative practice to be able to utilize all of these things, have access to unlimited messaging, different types of membership options, and patients communicate regularly with us. It's a relationship. This is definitely a more of a team approach, and being the top holistic functional medicine practice in the country, we have access to the brightest minds. We have the brightest doctors to help support us along the way. So Parsley is really taking over in regards to virtual care. Again, 45 states. I practice in Florida and also California.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. So before we get into our topic, I like to send out a poll. So if you guys can help to answer, it will be great. So this is just gonna be on your screen in a second. We're trying to understand what your goal is. Okay, you guys should see a poll on the screen right now. I'm just gonna leave this for about 30 seconds so we can get this ready.
I love that you do that, Sylvia. It's great to be able to just, utilize the technology to get an idea of your audience. It's awesome.
Exactly, and it's really interesting to see.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna give 5 more seconds if you'd like to vote. Okay, great. We got really good response. Thank you for your answer. So let me share the poll right now. You should be able to see the results we just got on the screen. Okay. So it seems like the most people right now in our audience, they're taking the pill for the birth control purpose. That's the answer for this first question. Wow, the second question really interesting. We have about equal amount, actually slightly more people just trying to know their body and the cycle. 21% trying to know better about the cycle and the body, and the 19% is trying to conceive. 7% is trying to avoid pregnancy. I think this is great. Thank you so much. It's very insightful. So without further ado, I will give the control and the screen to Dr. Jacqueline. We know that everyone has a lot of questions about birth control and about the hormone, how the hormones are affecting that. And I also know many people are trying to get rid of the birth control, and then they can start to trying to conceive. So maybe Dr. Jacqueline, you can walk us through some basic, like a fundamental knowledges, and also what we should be taking care of ourselves while we're trying to do that.
Of course. A quick question. When you all see the screen, now the poll is off, right? Now we're back to the main screen.
There you go.
Okay, wonderful. Yep, so this is my Instagram, and I also have given you all access to my email address. So at the end, I'm also going to put the screen up as well. You can also follow us at Parsley Health, and of course our website is parsleyhealth.com. So just as a disclaimer, I also wanted to bring up that I am a board certified family physician, but I am not your doctor. So yes, I'm a medical doctor, but I might not be your doctor unless you're a Parsley Health member of mine. So this is just for educational and informational purposes only. For those of you that put things in the chat or even as a Q&A, I typically like to answer in generalizations. I'm not here to answer specific questions about your case. So again, I'm a medical doctor, I'm not your physician, and it's important to talk to your own doctor about anything that you hear from us today. So today we're going to go over the top 5 points, and thank you all for being here. I'm excited to talk about this. So why you should consider a hormonal birth control cleanse and how to do it. What happens to your body when you quit? What are some of those side effects of quitting birth control? Sylvia is going to go over how to track your ovulation and cycle after birth control. And then of course, when to know when you should start trying to conceive. So hormonal birth control, specifically hormonal birth control, because we know there are other methods, just like you guys already took the poll. It contains either progestin or estrogen and progestin. And here's the different types. So we're talking about the birth control implant like Nexplanon, the pill, which I think 40% of you have mentioned that you're still on the pill, IUDs, which can also be non-hormonal, such as the copper IUD, the shot like Depo-Provera, the ring like NuvaRing, and the patch. And hormonal birth control has different side effects. And I think it's important for most women to understand that prior to getting on the birth control pill, or if you notice some strange symptoms, it's always important that you're screened for cardiovascular or gastrointestinal risks before you even start it. And as somebody who's been on birth control or who had been on birth control for several years, I didn't feel like this is something that my doctor had looked into. I've had a few patients that have actually had issues of cardiovascular risk, such as risks of strokes or clots. And clot risk is something that definitely should be assessed prior to starting birth control pills. So this is something to talk to your doctor about. Birth control is typically used for contraception to prevent against pregnancy, but a lot of doctors also use it to treat different hormonal imbalances that we just can't quite get under control. So it's important to think about that as well. And then sometimes we're talking about PCOS or endometriosis or conditions like this, where you have patients that the endometriosis is so severe and so bad that while we're working on lots of other things, some women are also supported by using the birth control pill. The most common side effects, if you've ever looked at the label on a birth control pill or a box, you'll see that it's almost like aspirin or any other type of medication out there. It has like 100 different possible side effects, or if you were to Google it, you're gonna see there's 100 different side effects. But here's some of the most common ones. Spotting and bleeding in between periods, especially when you're just getting started or even when you've gotten off, you'll see that. The breast tenderness, the cramps, the bloating, headaches, melasma, the blood clots I've mentioned. And I also made sure to put down that nutrient deficiencies is also one of the most common side effects. This actually happens for women that are on the birth control for long periods of time. So it's not quite the same as a woman who's on it for a short period of time, maybe 3 to 6 months or even inside of a year. But for some of us who unfortunately were on it for several years, you have to think about the way that it does affect the body as you're taking a medication like birth control. There's lots of nutrients that get depleted, especially folate and B12, vitamin C and E. It can also cause dysbiosis, which is when the bacteria in your gastrointestinal tract can be off. You can actually have high amounts of bad bacteria through the gut that's affected by use of the birth control chronically. And then sometimes it can mess with hormonal pathways. The birth control within itself is a synthetic hormone, and so it is shutting down your body's natural cycle and production. And so this also includes the pathways from the brain to other endocrine organs like your thyroid or also your adrenal glands. And then of course the ovaries can get affected as well. So what is a birth control cleanse? A cleanse is the process of of hormonal birth control and allowing your body to reset. So it's just giving your body a chance to breathe. That's the way I like to think of it. And so a lot of women might be trying to conceive, and they talk to me at Parsley about saying, Dr. Jacqueline, I'm ready to get off birth control because I want to start trying to get pregnant. Or maybe they're just looking for a break off of medication, especially since I mentioned long-term use of birth control can also contribute to nutrient deficiencies or even that gastrointestinal dysbiosis of the bacteria. They really just want to have a break and have this hormone reset and get off of it. And then some women prefer to transition off of hormonal birth control, to some of the non-hormonal methods. Sometimes women are having so many of those side effects, like the ones I mentioned previously, and they're like, listen, I cannot do this. I definitely don't like all of the things I'm experiencing. And then they decide they want to get off of it. And then, of course, there's some of those women that have those personal risk factors, like the clots that I mentioned. If there's any sort of sign or symptom of that, that's definitely a reason to get off of birth control. So the cleanse is really the process of allowing your body to breathe, giving your body a break from birth control. So what happens when you quit? Here's exactly what happens when you quit. Birth control within itself, it suppresses your body's natural cycle of the way that parts of the brain are going to talk to your ovaries to tell your ovaries to produce hormones. And so when that happens, then of course we have this process of natural menstruation. And unfortunately, the birth control suppresses your own body's ability to do that. So when women quit birth control, when they get off of it, it's almost like your body is starting to wake up. Your ovaries are waking up, and then on top of that, your brain is also recognizing that there is no more of this synthetic hormone in the body as it leaves. And this is just a wake-up call for your body and your brain and the connection between the two. So there's definitely this type of reaction, physiologic reaction in the body, where it's basically telling your body and your brain, look, I don't have the synthetic hormone in my body anymore. It's time for you, ovaries, to start producing your own hormones. And whenever we quit the pill, the goal is that we want to have our return to our natural cycles. So the natural cycle is that rhythm that we have every month of having your menstruation cycle and having your ovulation happen on a monthly basis. Sometimes for some women, they can have previous hormonal issues that can come up. So say, for example, prior to starting birth control, they were having lots of issues with acne. Sometimes after birth control, they may have some of those issues come up as well. And then as your body is adjusting, there are times when the new hormonal issues are going to start to come up after the birth control, because when your body's hormones are naturally waking up, this is also a process within itself. So you may feel uncomfortable, you may have spotting, you may have irregularities where it doesn't come back right away. So there could be these changes physiologically that your body might feel, even if it's breast tenderness, even if it's the irregular cycles, the cramping, and so forth. So what to expect? A good slide to take a picture of. Sometimes some women, and this depends on each unique woman, they have no symptoms. And so a lot of women can return to their natural hormonal cycles inside of 3 months. I commonly see a lot of young women all of a sudden have their cycles back in a matter of 3 months, in a matter of 1 month. And then I do have some women where it takes time for them to be able to get their cycle back. So I've noticed that if a woman has been on birth control for a longer period of time or a shorter period of time, this may affect how long it takes for them to get their cycle back. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. I'll have a woman that has come to me because it's been more than a year and they still haven't gotten their period back. And so of course we have to flesh out exactly why that might be the case. And then other women, they get off the birth control and boom, all of a sudden their cycle is back just all of a sudden within 1 month. So some of the symptoms that you might get once you're experiencing this, like I've mentioned, the acne and breakouts, headaches are common. Sometimes women have some hair loss, cramping, and also irritability, moodiness, irregularities in your cycles, or even having that missed cycle where you may not get your period back for quite some time. And so a lot of doctors refer to this as post-birth control syndrome. Dr. Jolene Brighton, she wrote an excellent book. She has a great blog, lots of excellent resources, newsletters. So for those of you women that want more, that's also a great source for you. Other side effects that some women get, increasing the libido. So one of the main side effects of being on birth control for a long period of time is decreased libido. And then of course, once you remove that synthetic hormone from the body, all of a sudden, all the hormones wake up, the ovaries wake up, and the libido comes back. So here's one main side effect that can be a good thing, right? Also, some people have this excessive weight gain when they've been on birth control for quite some time. So for those women, sometimes it's easier to lose some of that excessive weight that they might have experienced while they were on birth control. I definitely was one of those women. I had gained an excessive amount of weight from being on birth control for a long period of time. And then once I stopped birth control, I definitely did shed a bunch of pounds. Vaginal dryness, also very common on synthetic hormones and birth control. So alleviation of that is something we commonly see. And then again, that increased libido and improvement in your sexual experiences. So some women get these things, some women don't experience these things at all. A lot of women, I commonly see that these side effects do happen. So how to manage a lot of these side effects and symptoms when you're getting off birth control? It's important to get nutrition in your diet right and balance the gut. So there's lots of foods that we use to help replenish and restore. It's important that you're kind of putting all of these depleted nutrients back into your body and helping to support your gut microbiome. And estrogen detoxification and liver function are important because our body uses the liver and this detoxification pathway to get rid of synthetic hormones. We eliminate toxins, we eliminate bacteria, and we also eliminate unwanted estrogen through our digestive tract. So making sure that we have our gut balanced and that we're focusing on the right nutrients is really important there. And then of course, stress and prioritizing rest. The body needs time to heal. It also needs time to recover from being on birth control. And that includes making sure that you're getting enough sleep every night so that you wake up feeling refreshed. And also making sure that we have cortisol, the stress hormone, under control. We do get a lot of patients at Parsley, especially ones that want to focus on this leg of their journey, of their wellness journey, just for helping and having somebody to keep them accountable for getting off of birth control. So it's really nice to have a team to help support you along the way so that you have a health coach who can help support exactly how you're eating and what kinds of changes that you need to make to support that. And then also myself or one of our Parsley Health doctors to help support the medical side of things. Detox diet. When we talk about detoxifying and this birth control cleanse and getting your body back into better shape so that you can get these natural hormones up and running, we support the liver. Many times supporting the liver. Elimination is important because that's part of the process, like I mentioned, from the gut. And here's an example of some things that are commonly used, especially to support your liver, like leafy greens, the cruciferous vegetables that are also very helpful for that synthetic hormone or that estrogen metabolism. Ginger and blueberries, also very supportive for the liver. And then adding in things like high fiber, whole grains, bananas, raspberries, barley, broccoli. And for some women, they may have some sensitivities to some of these things. Maybe they're working on a specific nutrition protocol. So this is why it's always helpful to have a supportive care team to help you decide on exactly what's right for you. At the bottom here, I've noted some pre and probiotic foods that I also think are important to help support replenishing that gut microbiome. And the reason why this is so important is because there's some bacteria, like I've mentioned, where they may not have gotten the right nutrients while you were on birth control. And so we need to feed the bacteria with lots of these prebiotic foods and probiotic foods to support better dysbiosis so that we don't have any of that when it comes to your digestive tract. A big question before Sylvia goes into tracking ovulation. Can you get pregnant after stopping hormonal birth control? And the answer is yes. Directly right after. We're talking within 2 to 4 weeks after stopping the birth control, or even right after, literally within days, women can get pregnant. However, it's important to know that you have to ovulate in order to get pregnant. It's a very important concept. And some women, they may not ovulate for quite some time. And so they may not actually have a menstrual cycle and they may not actually ovulate right after. But just to say that a woman can't get pregnant right after stopping the birth control, that's not true. I do have some women that get pregnant within a month. I have women that get pregnant within 3 months. And we're doing and supporting all of the things. We're supporting their digestive tract to be able to eliminate out this unwanted toxins, unwanted bacteria, and unwanted hormones. And then at the same time, we're making sure we're managing sleep and stress and movement, and of course, liver detox and lots of nutritional support. So the answer is, can you get pregnant after stopping hormonal birth control? Absolutely, you can. Now, when you're ready to try, consistency is key, which is nice that we bring in Mira and Sylvia here to talk more about tracking your ovulation so that you can also see how your body's rhythm is. And approximately half of women, I'd say, would get pregnant after 3 months of birth control if they're actually making the right moves and trying. So they're really supporting by tracking their ovulation. They're doing lots of different things to support that. I'm sure at another time we can focus on fertility support and fertility optimization in a different webinar. But approximately half of women who are trying, they do get pregnant within 3 months afterwards. And then most, like it's mentioned here, most will get pregnant within 1 year if you're trying. The great thing and the beauty of a device like Mira is that it will help support learning about your ovulation cycle. So I have some women that are using it for tracking their ovulation to support when to get pregnant. And then I also have some that are tracking their ovulation so that they know more about when they don't want to get pregnant. And I am going to hand it over to Sylvia to talk about tracking your ovulation.
Great, thanks, Dr. Jacqueline.
Yes. Oh, wait, before I do so, Sylvia, one last thing.
Sure.
This is a code for Parsley. So there is a code for Mira 10 for 10% off our complete care membership or also our short program. And our short program is a 4-month plan at Parsley, really focused on one specific goal. So for women that are focusing on post-birth control syndrome, trying to get their hormones in balance as they get their regular cycles back, that may be an excellent plan to focus on, the 4-month plan. So this code is active. I think it may be deactivated after a certain amount of time. So take advantage of this while we still have it available to you. Last thing, before we go, again, this is my email address, drjacquelinetolentino@gmail.com. You can send me a message if you have any questions about the presentation today. I'll make sure that Sylvia and everyone at Mira and everyone who was listening in today and signed up for this also has access to a copy of these slides. And if you do send me an email to say hello, and also if you found this informative, you can always just put in the subject, Mira webinar. And I will stop sharing now.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. I think that was really impressive. That actually helped myself a lot on, educating about the hormonal birth control and so on. So I will start to share my screen, and then we can briefly talk about how to really track your cycle after you got rid of birth control. So you guys can see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I like to go over some hormone, fundamental hormones. I'm not a doctor, but I like to share the things I learned when I started the company, and I also learned a lot of information from our users. So usually this is your cycle. You probably have seen that somewhere, but that looks really confusing. This is day 1, this is day 28. So number one thing here is like not everyone has a 28-day cycle. This is just one example. And if your cycle can be ranging from like 14, 15 days until like even 40 something days, they're all good. It doesn't mean you have a problem. And another interesting thing is even within the same woman, every cycle length can be different. However, you might want to pay attention if your cycle variability is too big, and you might need to seek for doctor's help or so on. But this is just one example to show you a cycle length can have a huge variability. So what's really happening in a normal cycle, right? So let's say we're not taking birth control and we're still ovulating. So what usually happens is like you have a whole bunch of hormones and they are regulating your body. So this is really interesting because you say, oh, I probably just know I have a period and I heard something about ovulation that usually happens in the middle of the cycle. But what does this mean? Everything connects together here. So your most important hormone, or one of the most important hormone, is the luteinizing hormone. So on this chart is marked as this blue line, and this hormone will go up about 12 to 24 hours before you ovulate. So that's why a lot of OPK or even doctors, they like to test this hormone as an indicator for ovulation. And which is true, which is a very scientific way to do it. And the luteinizing hormone has to go up to have a surge. This is called a surge. And when luteinizing hormones start to go down, that's usually the case, or the time the egg has been released from the ovary. And the important thing here is that the ovulation itself only lasts to a really short time. So your ovulation probably happens like, around the middle of the cycle and lasts for about, a day or so. And even more importantly, the egg, once it's released, can only survive up to 24 hours. So that's why, some people may have trouble to get pregnant, and to find the best timing is really important, because you think about your cycle, let's assume it's 28 days, right? So your most fertile days are probably just 2 days. One is the day your egg is being released, another day is probably the day right before that, because the sperm can live inside the woman's body up to a few days. So those are the most important timing you will find out. And this ovulation is controlled by luteinizing hormone. And another important hormone is the estrogen hormone. So here we mark as estradiol. So this hormone will start to go up about 4 to 5 days before the egg is released. So this hormone is very important because it's synchronized with the time or the days a healthy sperm can live inside a woman's body. So that's why we usually call it what we call the fertile window. So fertile window doesn't really mean, oh, your body is already doing something, but it's more like probably 4 days, 4 to 5 days before the egg comes out. And the best sperm or the healthy sperm can live inside the woman's body up to that many days, up to 45 days. So that means if you want the sperm and egg to meet, and the sperm can go in there to wait for the egg to come out. So this whole period, from the 4 to 5 days until ovulation, and also, within that 12 to 24 hours after ovulation, these days combined together is what we call the fertile window. And obviously, those fertile window don't have equal opportunity for you to get conceived, right? So the right before ovulation and when egg just released, those are what we call the peak fertility days. So why do we need to know this? Because we want to understand how the body functions on two things. One is right after you got rid of birth control, and another thing is like your body coming back to normal. So the picture I just described is more for the normal situation when you have regular cycle, and then you will see something like this, and you should capture this fertile window. That's your most important and the best chance to get conceived at that moment. And then, however, when you just got rid of birth control, you may not have ovulation yet. So many people actually ask a question about, oh, I don't have period. Should I really track my cycle? Is that possible? I can get pregnant? The answer is yes, that's possible. And why is that? It's because the ovulation happens before your period, okay? So if you ovulate, and usually you don't feel your ovulation. For example, you ovulate around this time, and the sperm and the egg don't meet, so you're not pregnant. And then something in some tissue in your uterus will shed, and that's the cause of period. So that means you should have ovulation, and then you're not pregnant, and then period is gonna come. So that also means when your body start to coming back, those hormones start to have those surges, and the ovulation could come right even before your first period. So that also means even if you're trying to avoid pregnancy, right, after you get rid of the birth control, and you will want to track your cycle very closely, because something could happen, and if ovulation could happen, and you could get pregnant or so on. So you want to pay attention to that. So the whole process, we're waiting for your body to coming back, and cycles to come back regularly. Those are mostly waiting for the hormone cycle to be coming back to something like this. Okay, so those absolute number will differ. Like you may have longer cycle length, and your ovulation may not happen on day 15, could be on 17, 20, whatsoever. And your hormone peak value could be different, could be higher, could be lower. Every cycle could be different. That's fine. But these things like a cascade, like one hormone triggers another, and then your body will react to that, will ovulate, and then you have a chance to get pregnant or so on. So this thing will gradually come back to normal after you got rid of birth control. So it's very important to monitor your hormone, so number one, when's the chance to get pregnant? Or should I do something to avoid pregnancy naturally, right? If you don't want to get pregnant. Number two, where is your body at? Is your cycle already back? Is your hormone, this hormone fluctuation, hormone curve, hormone pattern already back? If you say that, that means you're really getting closer to to the normal cycle, and your body is doing well, is recovering from that. So I like to talk a little bit about Mira, and then we can take some questions. I've seen a lot of interesting questions, so thanks for your guys' engagement. So basically, Mira is helping you to track your actual fertility hormone concentration. So for the curve we just saw here, Mira will plot almost exactly the same thing, so you can see how your hormones are changing on your Mira screen. So we have a great news that our estrogen testing is releasing really soon. So it's actually next month, we should be able to expect to ship the estrogen product. So by that time, you can test both LH and estrogen together. So you can see you're not only just, when ovulation happens, but also the entire fertile window and how fertile you are, how is this cycle different from last cycle, what hormone threshold means ovulation to you or what means not ovulation to you. So especially for people, if you're getting rid of birth control, if you have PCOS, basically you have something irregular, it's something different. You do want to know better insights about what's going on, and that will guide your behavior much better as well. So with that, I like to take some questions. So let's see what's in our Q&A list. Okay, great. So I got the first question here, Dr. Jacqueline, I think it's for you. So this question, a lot of people are interested in this question. So it says, does it take longer to cleanse your body from a hormonal birth control if you're have been longer on it? She says she has been, for example, is there a difference if she has been on the birth control for 5 years versus 15 years? Is that gonna take longer? And if she wants to clean that faster, what can she do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I commonly see that the longer a woman is on birth control, say for example, the 15 years, it does take a little bit more effort and time to really focus on making sure that you're eating the right things, that you're detoxifying the body and so forth. Think about one of the common side effects from being on birth control for a long period of time. It's nutrient depletion. It's gut dysbiosis. So the longer that you've been on it, the longer it's been affecting you. And it can take longer for women to support that cleanse and recover and get things back in shape. I see another question here that kind of ties along with it is, how do you know when you're finished with the birth control cleanse? Well, guess what? When that period comes back and you're having very minimal side effects or PMS symptoms, and you're having this regular cycle and you're monitoring and seeing the tracking, that's really the time that you know that your period's back in great shape. If you're a woman who gets their period back and they start to develop any or some of those signs and side effects, like I mentioned, or PMS type symptoms, and you start to get more and more of those, then you know that your body still needs more time to help focus on healing and figuring it out. So it can take longer for women that have been on birth control for a longer period of time. I often see that.
Sounds great. And is there any difference between the different types of birth control? Maybe some type it's going to take longer to be cleaned and some are shorter?
Sure. Yes, that's true, because again, there's different hormonal amounts. So on the synthetic hormones and all of the different types that were in the first slide, and also even within the birth control pill, there's different amounts of the types of hormones that are in there. And so yes, there is a difference in that and how long it can take your body to cleanse from that.
I see. That's really great. And then another question I see that's related to that is is there any way we can help to do that? Because it seems like many people want to do two things here for our audience. One is they want to get rid of birth control sooner, and another they want to know what can they do to eliminate some side effects. So, for example, this girl is asking, how about using acupuncture? Is that going to help?
Yes. So I'm a fan. I like acupuncture. I think it's definitely helpful. So yes, you can support any of those other methods. I do like Reiki and energy healing. I also think that it's important to detoxify. Also, you have a different mindset, right? So you were a woman who was taking birth control consistently regular, and now you're trying to support the positive end of that, of getting this out of your body and focusing on the ways that your own natural hormones can start to produce. So yes, I'm a fan of acupuncture to help clear things out.
I see, I see.
Mhm.
So maybe more general question about that is like some people are asking about the methods used for birth control creams. So I know we briefly talk about this, like a healthy diet, exercise, sleep. I think those are great. So Dr. Jacqueline, you have anything to add on this, or do you have certain recommended way you believe in the past that's been working well for your patients, or basically some insights to share?
I think that's the best start, especially supporting the liver and detoxification. So a lot of women also focus on infrared sauna, making sure they're sweating things out, making sure they're supporting movement. Like I mentioned, supporting the gut microbiome and getting that dysbiosis in great shape, in much better shape, by making sure that you're eating the right foods, supporting the pre and probiotic foods to help replenish good gut bacteria, and also focusing on that liver support and liver detoxification. This is why a lot of patients, when they come to see us at Parsley, they often like the ability to have hormones levels checked and tested. They're utilizing devices like Mira to help support and track on their own. And then they also have a health coach to help keep them accountable on what should I be doing as far as eating, my lifestyle, what about sleep? How about my stress? Am I making sure that I'm handling things properly and doing all the things?
That's great. Another question related to that. So some people are seeing difference after they stop the birth control pill. So someone's at much longer cycle right now. Should she be concerned? Should she, she
Yeah.
28 day cycle and now it's like a 30 to 35. So what else can she do?
Yeah. Yeah, so cycles are typically 28 days. That's supposed to be the normal woman, right? But we all know that not every woman is normal. We have cycles of varying lengths. What's considered normal or acceptable is anywhere from 21 to about 35 days. So if you're having a cycle that's a lot longer than that, it's either shorter than 21 days or longer than 35 days, definitely important to talk to your doctor about it so that you can decide if there's anything else that is causing or creating the lengthening of your cycle, or even a short cycle if it's less than 21 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So we got a lot of question about hair loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some people are like Amelia, she said experiencing serious hair loss after getting rid of birth control. I believe
Mm-hmm.
Carla have the same question too. So,
Mm-hmm.
what can they do? Is that pretty normal or anything you can do to help to grow
Yeah.
some hair back?
Yeah, hair loss is such a tough one for a lot of women. What I found to be effective is making sure that you check levels of ferritin and iron support, making sure that you have all of those micronutrients that I mentioned in the first slide, including all of the B vitamins optimized. I often like to use a lot of collagen. So unflavored collagen has also been very helpful. I put mine in smoothies. I also put it in like a mocha mushroom drink in the morning. So collagen protein can be helpful for that. And there's also different supplements that really support hair growth. Another common thing I see is that it's affected, the hair loss is not just from getting off. It is a very temporary thing, or it should be, but may also be because the thyroid was affected. And so oftentimes you'll see hair loss in women that have sluggish thyroid. So making sure that you have these levels tested or checked, or if you're dealing with it for more than just a couple weeks, important to talk to your doctor so that they're doing some of these tests for you to determine if that's part of the cause.
Nice, sounds good. So another interesting question, we know a lot of women have PCOS. So this girl is asking if she has PCOS and if she got rid of from a birth control, is there anything special she could do?
Yes, there is a whole separate webinar completely free. If you follow me on Instagram, it's actually next Wednesday. So I put together just a presentation with one of my health coaches at Parsley named Erica Zellner, and it's all about PCOS. And there's also going to be a Q&A session at the end of that one. So I will save that for Wednesday's webinar in case you wanted to join in.
Great, great. So another question related to supplements. Is there certain PO supplements for or even probiotics we should be taking? some supplements should that be used for long-term use, or there might be some other side effects. We should do that for a certain time and then just gonna stop.
Yeah, I'm a fan of making sure that we test so that we at least know exactly where some of these levels are. And then of course we're following and monitoring over time and then testing it again. So that way we know exactly what we're dealing with. I also think it's important that we use food first. So a lot of the things that were mentioned were really food first, especially on the slides that I presented earlier. So when we're talking about liver support, the foods that are mentioned there, and also pre and probiotic foods to support that, there are certain supplements that can be used, and commonly some women, they just need that extra support. Maybe they're doing all the things. Maybe they're focusing on nutrition and they're doing the sleep and stress and the movement support, but they need an extra boost. Always important to talk to your doctor about it. So if that's not me, talk to your doctor about it so that you guys can decide for yourselves if that's the right thing for you to do. Oftentimes when I'm supporting elimination of birth control for a woman, maybe for a woman who's been on it for quite some time, I do recommend certain supplements to help support their liver on top of the things that I've mentioned today.
That's great. Another girl is interesting about the CLEANS program you offer at Parsley. Like what does that look like for remote and virtual patients? We know many people may not have physical access to the clinics right now.
Yes, yes. So they do free trials and a free consultation. That also includes a free consultation with a health coach to really delve into different aspects of what that looks like for women. If you look at parsleyhealth.com/join, or if you send me an email to my email address, I'll make sure that a team member gets in touch with you to talk to you more about what that looks like.
That's great. So another question from a Christina, actually a pretty popular question. They want to hear about the doctor's name you just mentioned, and that doctor has to write a book about the post-birth control syndrome.
Yes. Her name is Jolene Brighton. She did a great book called Beyond the Pill. I found that book to be super helpful. I made sure to read it myself before I recommended it to any of my patients. And she also does a lot of informational sessions. I believe she's got a newsletter. She also has a website with lots of information about birth control and post-birth control and things like that. So there's clearly a lot more physiology that it goes into, and in-depth details on ways to support the type of cleanse that we do at Parsley Health.
That's great. So we got a few more questions about the hormone. Actually, I'd like to maybe ask Dr. Jacqueline to answer this because you're, expert into this. So one girl is asking, what is a normal LH surge? So I think she's trying to ask, like, how does she know this time is a LH surge? Maybe she could have a really low LH surge level, but after birth stopping the birth control, how do they know this time is a true LH surge?
Sure. So LH surge, it typically only surges at one time within your menstrual cycle. And the only time that it is actually going to surge, like if you go back to that picture, Sylvia, the picture of the female menstrual cycle, it typically will only surge after estrogen has reached its trigger point. So estrogen is usually climbing to its highest point, and then that's what triggers the brain to stimulate the ovaries to produce luteinizing hormone. And that cannot happen unless the estrogen reaches that peak. But another important point I wanted to make about that beautiful diagram is that estrogen should not be peaking at other times in a woman's menstrual cycle. So to know when a woman is going to surge, which is why I love that you're coming out with this estrogen LH1, she'll be able to see when the estrogen is peaking. And then of course, at that point, once it's reaching its highest point, your brain is talking to your ovaries to release this luteinizing hormone to create that ovulation.
That's great. So Sophia is interesting in another hormonal related question too. And she said, what are some lab work to test for hormone imbalances?
That's a great question. So I typically would recommend that you talk to your doctor about testing for hormones. And it's not just looking at estrogen within itself. There's 3 types of estrogen that I commonly look for. So this is estriol, estrone, and estradiol. You're also going to take a look at your progesterone levels, your testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, and more, and even taking a look at the thyroid. But what I think is important to know is that depending on where you are in your natural menstrual cycle, your hormone levels will change. So if you were to check a blood level of your hormones on day 3 or day 5 of your cycle, the expectations are very different than you were to check it on day 25 of your cycle. And so making sure that you're testing at a specific time and talking to your doctor about this. Doctors that are well-versed in hormones are really paying attention to that so they can take that into consideration whenever we get your results back.
Sounds great. So this girl is asking about the if the hormonal birth control may have a lot of side effects. So what are some other ways or more natural ways for birth control you might be recommending?
Natural ways of birth control. So yes, they have the copper IUD. Some women are using diaphragms. There's spermicides. There's really taking a look at that window. And so really understanding where your ovulation window is. Some women, when they use, like for example, just taking a look and going, okay, here is exactly when I may possibly get pregnant. And they use Mirror to take a look at that. It's that 7-day window, right? We're looking at the 5 days or 5 to 7 days prior to ovulation, and maybe that small short window after that. And that's the time they either avoid having sex or make sure they use extra protection during that time. So there's lots of different ways. I believe on Mirror, you also have a great blog article that kind of goes through the different methods or ways of natural. And then also Jolene has additional information there. Parsley Health, we also have great resources on our blog that also goes into the different types of hormonal birth control methods and natural methods as well. So you can definitely check that out on any of those sites.
Exactly. I think that's a great answer because we do have a lot of Mirror users. They practice natural family planning. Basically, tracks their hormones. They usually track both the LH and the estrogen hormones, because as we discussed earlier, if you see both hormones combined together, you pretty much can find your entire fertile window.
Yes,
so
yes.
opposite ways you can find your entire non-fertile window.
Yes.
So, the natural family planning methodology has a lot of different I would say they have their deviations, they have their different opinions about exactly how to track. Each of them has their methodology behind, but you can search on that online. And also Mirror has a blog about natural family planning, or sometimes they call them fertility awareness methods. And this has been a scientific approved way, for effectiveness of birth control.
One other point I would make is that I think a recent blog article on Mirror's site had also to do with cervical mucus and how to check your cervix and changes in your discharge. And that's also an important thing for us ladies to know as well. Your discharge is going to change throughout your menstrual cycle, and also noting that in the notes section of your app is also really important, because that also changes when a woman is about to ovulate versus other times in your cycle. And it can be a great helpful tip for you when you're starting to feel like you're about to ovulate, or you feel like you're about to hit that window.
Great. And another girl is asking about the symptom after birth control. So she said that she has experienced like headache and heavy bleeding, mood swing, or so on. So she is trying to understand how long you're really gonna take those side effects to go away.
Yeah, that depends on how your body's balance of eliminating some of that excess synthetic hormone is. So for women that have more severe side effects, really talk to your doctor about the types of natural herbs and supplements and micronutrients that can be helpful there. And it can take longer, but if you notice that every single period after you've gotten off birth control and you're logging your symptoms, you're noticing the excessive nature of how common it is, it's important to say, look, maybe it's not enough for me to support with my movement and my stress and also with my diet, and I need to add in some additional supplementation support, whether that's pre and probiotics or omega-3s for inflammation, or maybe it has to do with the B vitamin support, or even diindolylmethane or sulforaphanes that help support estrogen elimination out of the liver. So talking to your doctor, if it gets to that point, really recommend that.
Sounds great. So that's great. And I have seen a couple questions about Mirror, about the product. So I'm just trying to answer here. So I saw one girl is asking about this Mirror has a mode for getting rid of birth control, because the hormone, the profile might look different than if you have a regular cycle. So I think the answer for now is like, no, we don't have a mode for that, but that's a really great suggestion. So the way we recommend you using that for this moment is really to look at your hormone profile. So as we discussed, like everyone can be different. even you do have regular cycles right now, your number can be different from this cycle to that cycle, or can be different from average values or so on. But if your ovulation is coming back, as Dr. Jacqueline said, you should clearly see 1 LH surge. And that's only happening once per in your cycle. And the increase of value basically should go up very sharply and go down really sharply. So that's a good indicator about, okay, the ovulation might be coming back. And once we release the estrogen test next month, I think it will bring you much more insights as well. So you can see your estrogen, which happens usually surges a few days before the LH surge. And also estrogen is a pretty general hormone, like a woman's hormone, gonna tell you some other information about your body as well.
Yes, and one thing I love about that, Sylvia, is that say a woman was to use the wand outside of the ovulation window and they were, say they were close to day 25 or day 26, you typically don't want to see high levels of estrogen at that point in time. So that could also be your sign just by looking at what those levels are to say, hey, there might be something going on here. My body might be creating too much estrogen, or I might have too much in my system. So, yeah.
Great. So there's actually another interesting question I want to ask Dr. Jacqueline. So this girl said that she has stopped the birth control and she got period, but she didn't really test about ovulation for that cycle. So is that possible that someone just got rid of the birth control and they have period, but their ovulation may not happen in that cycle?
Yes, it is possible, especially since there's still some synthetic estrogen there. Remember, what happens to shed the lining of the uterus is that there's estrogen that's building up in the lining there, and that still could be a side effect of just getting off of the birth control. So that's why we also mentioned that one of those side effects is spotting, and that could almost, like for some women, that could mimic what they might think is a period.
That's great. I think we're almost at time, but I'd like to take one more question, which is about the Mira. So this girl is asking about, will the estrogen wand, which gonna release soon, do they need to purchase a new analyzer for that, or their current analyzer will be working? So the answer is like, you may need to check your firmware, and how to check for that, you can contact support@miracare.com. Pretty much if you're a pretty new Mira user, like you purchased the Mira this year, like in 2020, it should be fine. And if that's older than that, we may have to upgrade your firmware. So upgrade firmware is really easy. It's just like, your Apple Watch updates this all the time. So basically download something through your app, and the system will upgrade itself within 30 seconds by itself. So you should be able to use that. So hope this will be helpful to you. Great. So before we finish, I'd like to share one more thing. Just let me share my screen. Hold on a second. So if you're not a Mira user yet, so we have a great news for you. You can use the code Parsley today to get $20 off from the Mira kit, like analyzer, starter kit, analyzer, and the 10 test wands purchase. So this is an exclusive offer. We're working with Parsley. So this is the, very interesting for you.
Yes.
Sounds good. So then, I like to do one final poll before we finish, and because I like to take a feedback from you guys. Do you think that's really helpful to you, and what we can improve for our future webinar? But before we do that, Dr. Jacqueline, you like to say any final words or final advice to our audience today?
Sure. Ladies, thank you so much for joining. Again, my email is drjacquelinetolentino@gmail.com. If you put in the subject Mira webinar, I'll be sure to get back to you, answer what questions you have. Remember, if you're interested in a Parsley membership, we're available in 45 states, and that code MIRA10 gets you a discount off of our Complete Care membership. That's a virtual membership, or also in person in Los Angeles and New York. So parsleyhealth.com/join. You can take a look at our website, take a look at our blog articles like the ones I mentioned for you to find there. And yeah, so if you have any questions, if you want to join the PCOS webinar, make sure you take a look at my Instagram.
Great, thank you so much, Jacqueline. I really appreciate that. I think your insights today has been super helpful to our audience. And for our audience, you can see that with some self-testing tool like Mira. We're really trying to innovating the technology to give much more accurate and easy access for you to use at home. And with something like a Parsley Health, I believe they are trying to also innovate in this industry to make the service, the doctor's advice, be more friendly to you and be more practical to you. So with the product combined with the service, there's definitely something we're trying really hard, and we hope that's gonna be helpful to our users. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone, but before you go, please help us to complete this survey so we can do even better in the future. I'm gonna leave this survey on the screen for like 30 seconds. So please go ahead. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. And we wish you have a great weekend. And hopefully this information is helpful to you. And all of you are gonna get the email for the replay for this webinar. So if there's anything, you wanna look at the slides again, you wanna find that interesting doctor who wrote that book, and you wanna find the code for Parsley Health, they're all in there. So you will get it in the email. So everyone has a great weekend. Thank you so much for your participation. Thanks, Dr. Jacqueline, for your sharing today.
Of course, of course. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.